Hello and welcome to the Goddess Awakens podcast with your host, Lorena Douglas. And today I'm going to talk about my recent trip to Florence, Italy, and what had channeled through me while I was there to share. The reason why I had gone to Florence is because my daughter got accepted into the art program. And so she's going to spend a semester studying abroad in Florence, and it's her first time overseas. So she wanted me there to help her in that transition, and I was more than obliged to do so. And so as soon as we landed, it was pouring, like just pouring ice, cold rain. And I felt that that was purifying. The water spirits was purifying the field of any dense energies for my daughter and I to be able to step upon the grids of Florence anew. Because as the day progressed, the rain stopped, the clouds dissipated, and by noon, the sun had come out. It was really beautiful to see how the day had progressed. And as we went through the cobblestone streets of Florence, it was just so beautiful, so ancient. I will say that the energies there were really, really old. Like it felt older than what I think we think it was. What history has led us to believe, just because it was out of this world, just amazing. The churches that I was drawn to visit, the intricacy, the art, the meticulous attention to detail that these artists had put onto the structures of the chapels of the churches are just beyond this world. Like they were definitely awakened beings channeling the higher quantum architecture that they felt drawn and called to share with humanity. Because I believe the more we studied about, or my daughter had studied about art and the architectures and the churches and stuff, they were just very religious. And so that was definitely seen in the different churches that I felt called to visit. The first one was the Dome. And honestly, the first day we went, it was closed. I landed on a Sunday. Monday, it was closed again because of a funeral. So I felt like I was never going to see the Dome. But I did see it from the outside. And I will say that the energies that was felt there, it was definitely potent and definitely powerful. I did get to visit it on my last day being in Florence. I did stand on that long line because by the third day, the church was open, but it was just so long. I should have came earlier. And then when I decided to come back and visit, it closed. So yeah, I definitely made it point to make it my first stop on my last day in Florence. As I stood there on my last day online, it was pouring rain again. And I brought an umbrella and I stood out there because I'm like, nothing's going to stop me from going into this church. And as soon as I stood there online, I showed up an hour earlier. I was the second person online. And I had looked up on the beautiful architecture because honestly, that was probably going to be the last time I would see it until if I ever decide to take a trip back to Florence. And it was just breathtaking. Tears just started flowing from me. And the messages I received was of the divine masculine. How the divine masculine really, really is just so powerful, so wise, so filled with love, and so much so much wisdom, so much care, so much like just the masculine wanted to provide that foundation for us to go and worship and remember and soften into our channel and soften into our being. And it just felt like a dad taking care of their child. And that's what I received while I was there. And I just started crying because I did feel that God was being channeled through the beings that were constructing the church, that was creating the art on the church, that was building the structure for humanity to be able to cherish, to be able to have a place of worship where they can surrender and be one with God and be one with their channel and be one with their being. And it was just the immense love that I felt while I was there. I had no words except to cry. And to cry because I had I had a lot of unhealedness that I didn't know I had underneath regarding the masculine and the way I was brought up with the unhealed masculine and the toxic masculine. And then, moving on through that and having toxic relationships until I was able to find my husband now, who is the healed divine masculine. And so I didn't know I was still holding on to those wounds, and I didn't know I still had more forgiveness and more closure with the divine, with the masculine. And it was at that moment that I realized that I had to forgive my dad even more, and I had to forgive the way that life was and the way that everything had transpired while being here on this earthly plane. Um, it felt prevalent the day before because the day before I had gone to see Michelangelo. And if any of you know, the real Michelangelo is there in Florence. And I didn't expect to be so moved by seeing the Michelangelo. I knew I felt called to visit him. And when I visited him again, I was so moved by seeing him that again, tears just flowed through me. And I was able to see a strong masculine being and also being soft at the same time. It was very moving, and I'm getting emotional again bringing it up. And I just don't know why. I just know that he moved me in a way that I didn't expect to see or feel the masculine. I didn't expect, I always seen a man as strong, as powerful. But then there's so much beauty in that, and there's so much softness in that. And for some reason, my dad had come through really prevalent, as in he tried to be the divine masculine. He tried his best to do what he wanted to do. He was just enjoying life. He was just trying to be what everyone expected of him. But at the same time, it was hard being a man and being who he was, filled with insecurities. And at the end of the day, being human. I was able to see a different side of him, a different side that was not made available until I went and was able to channel the divine masculine in these sacred spaces. And it was at that time that I realized that I had another layer of forgiveness for him and another way of understanding him on a human level. Because at the end of the day, he was just being human, trying to be human and trying to be there for himself and there for his family. I just let it go. because at the end of the day, I can't say that he did live his life to the fullest. And, he lived until he was 91 and he had 2 marriages and a lot of children. Yeah, and he just became who he always wanted to be, a successful man, a man who was trying to do the best he could with the resources that he had and what life had given him. And so, yeah, that came in really strong with the masculine. The other piece that had come through was even deepening even more in the mother codes of surrendering, trusting the divine, and releasing total control. That we that came in strong when I had to once again say goodbye to my daughter and goodbye to the having her so close and nearby. It hurt so much. I felt like a piece of me had been ripped out of my body and left in Florence, and I'm getting emotional again. It was very hard. And even though this is her, what is it? She started college last year, so this is her 3rd semester, and she's been dorming, but I think this is the first time it really hit me even harder because she's not, an hour, because she was only 2 hours away from me, and now she's like, she's on the whole other side of the world and overseas, and I have to like pay for flights and stuff if anything were to happen. Like it wouldn't be remedied immediately. And so that was another releasing of control and another surrendering I had to do and trusting that divine will protect her. Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that something's going to happen to her. I have, all these fears that something will happen to her. But honestly, at the end of the day, when I had channeled that I was afraid to let her go, another version had came in where that reality did exist, where I did keep her. I did clip her wings. I did prevent her from following her dreams and from leaving the home and from going to college. And the type of girl she ended up being in that alternate reality was a woman who was not in her divine feminine, was not in her empowered sovereign self, and was basically an adult child, a child stuck in an adult body. And she didn't really get to grow up till after I passed away. And it was very difficult for her to manage her everyday life without me being there and doing everything for her. And I realized that I've noticed this in other people, like in people that I, come by where it seems that their child hasn't developed and is not really, keen to how things are managed or how they should be acting at their age. And so it brought me back after I experienced that. I came back and I was like, wow, I have to release control and I have to trust that I'm not ever going to play that lifestyle. Like, I'm never going to clip her wings and I'm never going to stop her from following her dreams, no matter how afraid I am and no matter how much I'm against it. Because at the end of the day, I want my daughter to be sovereign. I want my daughter to feel in her power. And I want her to accomplish her dreams and follow them through without any limitations, without anything stopping her. And that was an eye opener. And I still cried, even though I still was going to let her go. But I think I was just crying because I finally realized that she is becoming that woman that I had dreamed about. The woman who is empowered and fearless enough to follow her dreams. The woman who can trust herself and trust her magic and trust her mind and her body and her voice to continue to follow through on what lights her up and what brings her joy and what brings her laughter and silliness and following what lights her up. And that to me is the greatest blessing and the greatest gift because not only is she doing this for herself, but she's doing this for me and she's doing this for all the women in our lineage and all my ancestors, all the women that weren't allowed to follow their dreams, who were not allowed to be their authentic self, who were forced to dim their light and not be their full divine feminine essence here on planet Earth. And to me, that's the greatest gift she can give me and she can give every woman going forward because wow, the way that she's like dismantling these old paradigms, these old ways of thinking that women have to, just be second to the man or just not fulfill their goals or their dreams, like she's dismantling that. She's breaking down those walls and she's becoming who she was always meant to be. I realized that I came here to remember who I am on a on a subconscious God level. I was made in God's vision, in God's view, and I know that I'm meant here to be here to spread my wings and to fulfill my dreams as hard as possible and believe in them and to be there for my children and to be there for me and foremost and to be there for my family. And I just can't believe that a lot of those dreams are coming true now because I really became emotional because I remember when I was 20 years old and I was staring at my daughter and I knew that I would do anything for her, that I would do anything to make sure that her dreams became true. I don't know how. I didn't have a plan except finding a job and going back to school, but I knew it was going to happen. I knew at the depths of my heart and my gut that I would do everything so she can live life to the fullest, so she can experience even more than I ever had. And now, 19 years later, those dreams are coming into fruition. They're being realized before my eyes. And that made me even more emotional because I never gave up. I never gave up on that dream of her becoming who she's always meant to be. And, my job isn't done. There's still so much more to go. But this is another layer, another foundation that is needed for her to keep going and becoming who she's always meant to be. And I'm just so happy for myself and for her that I never gave up, that and I will never give up. Even just having the opportunity, being blessed enough to just sit there in Florence and enjoy what we were enjoying, the scenery, the food, the culture. It's such a blessing. It's another dream that I was holding on to be able to travel, to be able to breathe different air and experience different everyday life. It is just so beautiful. I'm so moved. I'm so moved by everything that has transpired. I went there feeling like I was going to channel the divine goddess, the divine feminine, and I what I had experienced was healing, healing and closure of the unhealed masculine and forgiveness and channeling just what the divine masculine is and what happened to the masculine now, like the unhealed masculine, and how it transpired and how I was able to first see it firsthand with my dad, and how now I could see it. This version of me could see it for what it is and forgive him even more than past versions of me have done for him. And well, in case you guys didn't know, my dad passed away 10 years ago. I think now it's 11. It's been 11 years. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey of forgiveness. It's been a journey of letting go of a lot of stuff that had happened, because at the end of the day, he was just trying to be human. And with my daughter, I have to let go too. I have to release control and I have to surrender. And I have to trust that God, the creator, her spiritual team of light, her mission family, her higher self, are all holding her with so much love, with so much protection, with so much joy and laughter. And they are guiding her, they're steering her to where she needs to be. In that I can say, I love where she's staying. She's so blessed to have the roommates that she does and to taste all the delicious foods and experience what living in Florence and following your dreams is really like. These deeper mother codes that had anchored within me were like, I keep feeling like they were just like little slivers, like little codes that I needed to continue to anchor even more into the healed mother, which is been my theme since I would say December. Like being shown what the unhealed mother is, and now coming to the other side, what the healed mother is supposed to be. And I'll probably do a whole podcast on the unhealed mother versus the I think I had done one on the healed mother codes and how it is to raise children, because I'll just say it now. The unhealed mother for me, which had come upon before coming here to Florence, Italy, I've had a really unhealed dynamic with my mother. And it's more that she is living in a very old school way of parenting, of mothering. And it seems that she escaped, or she left her home as a young child because she didn't agree with those customs and those ways of parenting. But for some reason has came here still with those same ideals or the same way of parenting, but in her own way, and has failed to see me for who I am, and has failed to accept me for who I am. And I see it when I speak to her and she criticizes my siblings. And it hurts. It hurts because I'm doing the work. It hurts because she hasn't done the work. And I have so much compassion and I have so much love. It's just, I have to keep strong boundaries to not allow that to leak into my safe haven, into my home where I have built such a safe, loving environment for me and my children. And so in speaking with her and in talking with her, I've realized certain patterns that are very unhealthy and then in which I don't want to repeat. She clearly shows me who I don't want to be. And so it's a beautiful reflection as to she showed me who she is, and I wanted to do everything opposite of that. And it's always been like that growing up. I don't like how she's doing this, so I'm gonna do this instead. I don't like the way she's handling this, so I'm gonna do this instead. And it's still like that. I don't like the way she's behaving. She's behaving like I'm still a 15 years old, and that's not healthy. And when I try to explain that to her, she gets very irate and very victim mentality. And that's not something that I'm going to allow to happen. And that's not something I'm going to accept in my life. So there are times where I distance myself because I do have compassion, because I know she's not doing the work. And I know that if I'm not going to entertain this just because and I know she doesn't understand. I know she doesn't understand the drama cycle, the trauma cycle. I keep calling it drama. The victim getting angry, forgiving, and then doing it all over again. Like, I'm not for that. And so I don't want to be that for my daughter. And I don't mirror that. And I don't ever want to be that. And so to me, that's the unhealed mother. The unhealed mother who can't see you for who you are, who can't accept you for who you are in today's world. Because at the end of the day, there are roles we decided to take on when we came to Mother Earth. One of them being, if you decide to have children, you decide to anchor into the mother code, and you're shown the duality of that. You're shown what an unhealed mother is, and then it's your choice if you want to get yourself out of that into the divine healed mother. And I do believe that I was also the unhealed mother at one moment of my life with my daughter, because I didn't know any better. I was just being human, and I was just doing what I thought was best, which is the way my mother raised me. And then something had clicked within me. I had started going to therapy, and I had started getting the help, and I started realizing, I started doing the work and realized that this isn't healthy. My daughter's not a child anymore. I don't have to treat her like a child. She's growing into young adulthood. I have to realize that she is training to be an adult. She doesn't need a mother anymore. She doesn't need someone to tell her what to do or what not to do. She needs an advisor, another person in her round table to help give her advice. Because at the end of the day, it's her choice what she wants to do with her life. I just helped raise her, and I just helped take care of her. I just helped filling that role when she needed me the most. And now I have cut the energetic umbilical cord, and I am meeting her as a sovereign being of light, hand to hand, holding one another and accepting her for who she really is and seeing her for who she's always meant to be. I see her, and I accept her, and I love her for being her. And unfortunately, a lot of mothers are not on that level, and that's okay. Because I do believe that it's another dream I'm holding on to, that everyone on this planet will be able to heal the unhealed mother codes and will be able to become the healed mother that they were always meant to be. That every son, daughter will be able to be accepted and loved and seen for who they're meant to be, for who they are here on planet Earth. So that's my interpretation of what the unhealed mother is. The unhealed mother is she lives in fear and insecurities. She has anxiety. She does not trust. She doesn't trust anyone around her. She doesn't trust even herself at times. She doesn't allow herself to cry or to be moved or to surrender. She wants to be in control all the time. And she doesn't forgive. She holds on to a lot of unhealed wound and a lot of past traumas. And she tries to control everything and everyone around her to make her feel secure. That's the only way she can feel like herself. And I know that whatever control I was holding on to, the little bit of it I was able to release while I was in Italy. And I was able to surrender and let it go through tears, through crying, through trust. The end of all of that, just trusting that God will be here to protect my daughter and trusting that I have become the mother that she needs or the friend, the wise friend that she needs to be able to get through this next journey in her life and her next journey of being her. At the end of my trip, I had left super early. I left Florence content and thanking the lands for allowing me to visit, thanking the guardians of the land for protecting my daughter and protecting me and for allowing for Florence to be part of her journey of growth and her journey of becoming her, of remembering who she was always meant to be. Yeah, and my trip back home was like a complete mess. I was supposed to get a transfer flight from Florence to Paris and then in Paris get my flight there back to New York. However, everything was canceled. And last minute had to take 2 more connecting flights so then I can get back home, and I didn't get home till, like, midnight the next day, which is insane. It took me a whole day of travel, going through different airports and different transfers and it was just I just felt that maybe the universe wanted me to further anchor the codes that I had been witness to, that I needed even more grounding and I needed a little bit more of co-creating with the air grids and sharing my code with all of that, because at the end of the day I have to think about the positive of why my travel arrangements coming back home was not what I had planned. But that's how life is. Nothing ever goes as planned, and I have to surrender to it. And I have to accept that this is just what God intended for me to do, that I had to take a different route home, and it's fine. I'm home. I made it home at the end of the day. And so I hope you really loved listening to me. And I wanted to remind you that if you're ready to alchemize your own challenges into wisdom, trust your inner strength, and never give up on your life's journey, that please know that you're not alone. Your struggles can become your greatest wisdom. And your love and sensitivity is your superpower. Your journey matters, and the world needs your unique feminine essence to shine without holding back. I would invite you to subscribe now so you will never miss an episode, and we can continue to walk this path together in sisterhood. Love you.